Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Watang Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. Today is the third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching, and I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's completely fine. You're welcome to come and go as you please, but just understand that I'm teaching a 5-day course, and whenever I do that, the people who come in on Wednesdays just kind of come in and join us. Everything here is available for you to learn and grow and develop on the path to enlightenment as the Buddha taught, to get to this enlightened mental state, and it's all available at no cost. So you guys are welcome to stay as long as you like or as short as you like. We're going to be starting with meditation like we do each one of our classes, and then afterwards I'm going to be moving into some talks to be able to help students understand some of the teachings of the Buddha. This morning we're going to be learning transforming the 3 poisons of craving, anger, and ignorance. This is a high-level description of the problems that the Buddha discovered in the mind and why you keep experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings can actually be eliminated from the mind through training the mind. That's what the teachings of the Buddha are for, is to help you train your mind and get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any of those discontent feelings like anger, sadness, and frustration. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by other people. You might think that your parents are frustrating you, or your boss is annoying you, or your coworkers are making you angry. But what you're going to be able to see today is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, and this is why you can actually eliminate them. And the way that the teachings of the Buddha work is they're not based in belief. You're learning, growing, and developing on the path to be able to cultivate wisdom. So I'm going to be sharing teachings with you after our meditation that's going to help you to understand your mind and understand what you're experiencing in day-to-day life. And I'll show you how you can independently verify what I'm sharing with you, so that way you're not believing anything that I share, because none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. It's all about training your mind. So the way that we start our class is we start with meditation, and I'm going to be chanting in order to ease into the meditation. If you guys would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. On a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet, there's laminated sheets that have the chanting on there, because I'm going to be chanting in the Pali language. This is the historical language of the teachings of the Buddha, and you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. For those of you guys that are online, you can get this on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com, and just click on free books, and then down towards the bottom you'll see the daily chanting sheet. If you understand the origins of chanting, you'll know that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to remember his teachings. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because he taught orally, and the technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world. So he needed to use something in order to help his students remember his teachings. So they would recite his teachings orally through chanting as a way to commit them to their memory. And this is how they were able to then practice his teachings and experience the results of enlightenment. Where today we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings. We have books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, all these kinds of things to be able to help us. But I still chant because it helps to ease the mind in the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But you can see from the origins of chanting, it's not a rite or a ritual or a ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that. If you've been exposed to those kinds of things related to the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't actually the teachings of the Buddha. He never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship. His teachings aren't based in belief. It's about cultivating wisdom and training your mind, uprooting certain pollutions in your mind, and that's what's actually going to produce the peace and the joy of the enlightened mind. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this person didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. you. And a Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these to me out of respect for me, because they would have eliminated their ego. They wouldn't consider themselves to be above people or below people. They would just see everybody as equal. So the Buddha wouldn't have created these types of things and said, here, chant these to me out of respect to me. But as I mentioned, if you were a student of someone who helped you get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, and they didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So I use these as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing guidance to help you during the meditation. It's like teaching you and guiding you at the same time. So you'll hear me doing that for a brief period of time. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. You will potentially hear something in the environment. Here you might hear someone sneeze or cough. You might hear a car go by, a bird chirping, or a dog barking. If your mind craves permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll be annoyed or frustrated. But if you understand that the world around you is impermanent, meaning it's constantly changing, and you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet, when you hear a sound, you won't be frustrated. You won't cause your mind to be annoyed. So even though that period of time is quiet, or that's what we're kind of experiencing for the most part, you're going to hear occasional sounds, and that's normal. And you can just understand that those sounds are impermanent. They arise, they change, and then they fade away. And then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand some of the teachings of the Buddha. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times in order to help you in your journey to enlightenment. But oftentimes students are starting in the seated position. So I'll share some guidance with you on this to be able to help you find what's comfortable for you. There isn't just one fixed position to meditate in. There's multiple positions because everybody's body is different and you're going to experience different things. So the things that I share with you about the seated position, it's not that you're required to sit like this. It's just that these are some considerations for you to think about in order to find what's comfortable for you. Even if it doesn't include the things that I'm sharing, you can sit however you're comfortable. People oftentimes like to sit on the floor or in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this. You can sit however you're comfortable. But if you're on the floor, oftentimes people like to have some cushions under their rear. This will help kind of soften the seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, oftentimes it's best if you do that lightly. Whereas if they were real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles and allows the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together and he put this into his lap, but this may not be comfortable for you. So it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you do whatever's comfortable for you. And it's the same thing for anybody in a chair or in a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair. You can sit however you're comfortable as well. Sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me here in a chair with my legs crossed, so that's an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic, but if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert while you're meditating. So having the sternum up and the shoulders back will help the mind to stay attentive and alert during the meditation. It will also help you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in if you like. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato mahakawata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammuno Sakatoro kavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up to the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here at the temple, and welcome to everyone joining us online as well. Nice to have you here. As I was mentioning, today is a third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching, and the plan for today is that I'm going to share the 3 poisons of craving, anger, and ignorance, helping students to understand these high-level problems that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and then also share the solutions of how to fix it as well. We're going to take a mid-morning break, then afterwards I'm going to teach what's called the 5 precepts. These are 5 impactful decisions that you could make either wisely or unwisely, and it's either going to lead to wholesome results for you or unwholesome results for you. And understanding these important decisions will actually help you to experience more and more wholesome results in your day-to-day life. If you've heard that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants, the Buddha actually didn't teach that. That sounds like black and white. It sounds like a bunch of rules or commandments. I'm going to be using the Buddha's original words to be able to help you see what he taught on this important topic, so you can then also see how to apply it in your day-to-day life, because the teachings of the Buddha are applicable to your day-to-day life now. So the 5 precepts are going to be able to help you to see how to apply those in your day-to-day life and experience wholesome results. We're going to take a lunch break for probably about an hour and a half or so. Then when we come back this afternoon around 1:30, 2 o'clock, I'm going to be teaching walking meditation. This is a meditation that's going to help you if you have an overactive mind and you find it challenging just to kind of relax and be still and steady. This is going to help you to kind of eliminate all of that so that you can be calm and still and not have restlessness of mind. So again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see you all here. If you're here for the group learning program, I usually am starting the 4-part series on breathing mindfulness meditation, but because I'm teaching a course, what I'm going to be doing is teaching these things. And then next week on Wednesday, that's where I'll teach the meditation to be able to help you guys understand meditation inside and out. But today you'll surely learn some things as we go. So if you guys have questions as we go throughout our class today, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions that you like, because I'm going to be pausing it a few times and opening up to questions. We have microphones here in the white bowl for those of you guys in the temple. If you could get a microphone, press the gray button, you're going to see lights come on, and you can just hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, we won't be able to hear you online. So if you could use a microphone, that would be great. And you can keep these with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. For anybody who's online, whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can also ask questions by putting that into the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. So this topic of the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots, this is going to help you to understand why you keep experiencing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. It's going to help you to understand all those feelings and why they keep coming up in your mind. And it's also going to help you to understand how to eliminate them, because how could you ever eliminate them if you didn't know what was actually causing them? This path to enlightenment that the Buddha taught is to help you get to a peaceful, calm, and serene, content mind with joy, where the mind is permanently peaceful and joyful. By the time you get to enlightenment, it's physically impossible for you to ever experience anger, frustration, or any of those other discontent feelings ever again, because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing it. These are the causes and conditions that are producing it: craving, anger, and ignorance. But if you don't know what these things are, you wouldn't understand how to then remove them with the solutions that the Buddha provides. The Buddha is not providing you a bunch of beliefs that you believe certain things and then you hope something good happens when you die. He's also not giving you rules or commandments or anything like that. He's actually teaching you how to train your mind and get to this peaceful and joyful mental state. And part of that is that you're going to need to know the wisdom of what's actually plaguing the mind. So whenever you're learning the teachings of the Buddha, it's important that you listen with eager ears, that you attentively listen and understand. And then where you need clarification, you ask for help. But you're not believing any of these teachings. When I share with you these three poisons today and I describe to you what they are and I explain the symptoms that you experience because of them, you're going to be able to independently verify what I'm saying is true, because I've never met some of you guys ever before, but I'm going to be explaining things that you experience in your day-to-day life, and you're going to be able to see that, yes, this is actually what you experience, and I'm explaining to you exactly the reasons why. And then I'm going to show you how to actually eliminate these from the mind as well. Getting to enlightenment isn't a one-day thing, right? It's not a 1 week or even 1 year thing. It's going to take multiple years for you to journey to enlightenment, but this is the joy in training your mind and actively getting to this enlightened mental state where you can experience that peace and joy permanently. You'll notice that your mind is focused and concentrated. You have clarity of mind and deep memory by the time you get to enlightenment. All your personal and professional relationships will be really blossoming. They'll be at ease, where right now you probably have a certain amount of bitterness or hostility or harshness in your certain relationships. And this is all coming from your own mind. Oftentimes people think it's coming from other people, but it's actually coming from your own mind, and this is why you can improve it. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have a bad mood anymore. It'll be physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. So as we go, feel free to ask me any and all questions that you like. So just kind of talking about the three poisons from a high level, we refer to them as the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires. They're also known as the defilements or the pollutions or the taints. These are the ways that people refer to them as. These are individual things that are inside your mind that are keeping it continuing to experience all this anger, frustration, agitation, and all those other discontent feelings over and over and over again. It helps you to understand the pollutions that exist in the unenlightened mind. It explains to you how an unenlightened mind makes decisions and how those decisions produce unwholesome results for you. There's certain decisions that you make in day-to-day life, and all those decisions that you make, if you're making wise decisions, it's going to produce wholesome results. If you're making unwise decisions, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. We refer to this as karma. The word karma karma or gama. You might be familiar with this. The word karma is from the Sanskrit language. The word gama is from the Pali language. And the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so people who study those will typically use the word gama. What this means is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. Whenever you make a decision, either wisely or unwisely, it's going to produce either wholesome gama or wholesome results, or unwholesome gama or unwholesome results. And it's important for you to be able to see this, because there isn't anything mystical and magical with the teachings of the Buddha or with the natural law of karma. This isn't punishments or rewards. It's not mystical or magical or who's to blame or who's at fault. It's helping you to see that whenever you make a decision, either wisely or unwisely, you're going to experience the results of that. And when you lack wisdom of a natural law, you're going to tend to make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. Sometimes people think what they're experiencing in life is based in good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, or they think that God or some entity, like they'll describe it as the universe, is kind of controlling what they experience. Or you might be blaming what you experience on other people. And as long as you subscribe to this type of thinking, you'll never be able to change anything in your life, because you can't change good luck or bad luck, and you can't change destiny or fate. You can't change God or some entity called the universe, and you can't change other people. So what the Buddha is helping you to awaken to, which means gain wisdom about, is this natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result. If this translated to just one English word, I would just use that word because it'd be easier for everybody to understand. There's natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. Like the natural law of gravity, as we were growing up, we experienced this and we lacked wisdom of it, and we fell down, we hurt ourselves, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, and because of this, we really struggled in the world. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity, and then we made wiser and wiser decisions, which produced more and more wholesome results, or wholesome karma. We no longer bounce around so giddy like a child anymore. We look at the surface of the sidewalk when we're walking. We tie our shoes fairly tight and make sure we don't trip over our shoelaces. And now we can climb ladders, we can get on bicycles, we can fly on airplanes all over the world, because we fully awoke to the wisdom of the natural law of gravity. We don't believe in it. We can see the truth for ourselves. If we look, we can actually see there's the natural law of gravity right there. Right? We don't believe that it exists. We know with 100% certainty that the natural law of gravity is true. Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And the natural law of karma is one of those natural laws. There's no being who's controlling this. It's based on your decisions. Whenever you make a decision, you're going to experience the consequences of that decision. But when you lack wisdom, you will tend to make unwise decisions without even realizing it. Just like the natural law of gravity, we made unwise decisions without even realizing it. But we awoke to that natural law. Now we make wiser decisions, and we no longer struggle and have difficulties. So that stress and anxiety, the anger, the frustration, that's your mind struggling to live in this world that you don't understand. You're living in a world that you don't understand. And when you don't have the wisdom of that world, you will experience stress and anger and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. But when you awake to this wisdom of these natural laws, you won't experience those same feelings and emotions anymore, because you can navigate the world peacefully and you'll be at ease. You'll have harmonious relationships. So these three poisons, or three unwholesome roots, or three fires, they're motivating unwise decisions that lead to unwholesome results, or unwholesome karma. Everything that you experience in your day-to-day life that is unwholesome, it's coming from these three poisons, or these three unwholesome roots. But if you don't understand what they are, and you don't understand how to eliminate them, you'll keep experiencing making decisions based in them, and you'll keep experiencing unwholesome results. So you can uproot these and actually get to the point where you're no longer experiencing the unwholesome results. So the three poisons, or three unwholesome roots, they explain a clear description of the problems in the unenlightened mind, but then there's antidotes or solutions or remedies to these. These are called the three wholesome roots. And when you implement the three wholesome roots, now you'll be experiencing wholesome results coming back to you, because you're no longer making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance. Now, as I mentioned, this is a description at a high level, the craving, the anger, and ignorance, which we're about to get into. But a more detailed level that the Buddha described is called the 10 fetters. That's the 10 individual pollutions that the mind has in the unenlightened state. And that's ultimately what you're working to uproot and eliminate from the mind. And for those of you guys that were here on Monday, I kind of introduced you to those 10 fetters. They're referred to as a fetter because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were a prisoner and they were trying to keep you confined to a certain area, they would put a fetter on your ankle. What a fetter is a shackle and a chain and a ball, and it would keep you trapped in a certain area, like a field, and they would just turn prisoners out into this field. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells or prison cells or something like this. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they just attached a fetter to your ankle and you were left in this open field, and that's how they kept you confined to that area. Well, when the Buddha discovered these pollutions in the mind, he calls them fetters because they're keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state, continuing to experience anger and frustration and agitation over and over and over again, and all these other discontent feelings. So what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're purifying the mind of these 10 fetters. You're uprooting them out of the mind and getting to the point where the mind is free. It's no longer bound up in experiencing the anger and the frustration and all these other discontent feelings over and over. But when we talk about them from a high level, we describe them this way, with the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe each of these 3 poisons or these 3 unwholesome roots from a high level, and just to give you an overview of the 3 of them. Then we're going to go into each one of them in detail, and I'm going to talk about them in detail, and I'm going to describe the solutions for you at that point too, really focusing on the solutions to help you understand how to solve it. So just from a high level, what these are, and again, this is where you don't believe me. You listen with eager ears because I'm going to be describing the things that you experience in day-to-day life. What craving or greed, some people call it, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations, what this is where inside the mind is longing, yearning, craving for things to be a certain way. The mind is seeking satisfaction externally. The mind is chasing and chasing and chasing. It thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind's pulling in the direction of the objects of its affection, wanting things to be permanently agreeable to you. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst that the mind thinks something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind is like, oh, I know what I need to feel better. I need more money. Let me get more money. So the mind will kind of chase that for a while. Or the mind might be like, oh, I know what I need, a new boyfriend or a girlfriend. That'll fix everything in my life. Let me go get one of those. Or, oh, I need a new house or a new car or more jewelry or something like this. If you've ever been in the mall and you saw like a new pair of shoes or jewelry or a new phone or video game and you're like, oh, I just gotta have that. That's the craving, desire, attachment. The mind's trying to latch on to this external thing. And if you get what you want, you experience pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get what you want, you get angry or sad or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. You might feel guilty or shameful or stressed or anxiety. So if I see a brand new pair of shoes in the window and I have a craving in my mind and I'm longing and yearning for it, and I go into the store and they have my shoes, I might get so excited because now I get to wear these new shoes and look at everybody, look at my new shoes, aren't they cool, right? But if you go into the store and they don't have your size of shoe, you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed because the mind's not getting what it wants. It's longing, yearning for this thing, and it's forming its feelings based on whether you get this thing satisfied or not. This is called a conditioned feeling. It's like if you wake up in the morning and you get so excited because it's sunny outside, that's because of craving, desire, attachment. You're longing, yearning, wanting it to be sunny. But that sun is not permanent. And because the sun is not permanent, when it changes to rain, you'll be frustrated and agitated or annoyed because you're not getting what you want. Or if you get really excited when your bank account balance is up here, then when it goes down here, you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed because the mind's not getting its cravings fulfilled. So as long as these cravings, desires, attachments are in the mind, in some cases, you're going to get your cravings fulfilled and you're going to be happy and excited. but that happiness is ultimately going to fade away anyway, because it's temporary. It's based on some condition. But in some situations, you're not going to be getting what you want, and now you're going to be angry or sad or frustrated. It's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And when that anger is arising, which is the second poison or the second pollution, when that anger is arising, you're going to attribute those painful feelings to something external. And the mind's going to become unskillful. This is where you might push people away out of your life. You might have pushed friends or family members out of your life, thinking that they were the problem, and you thought if you push them away, that you're going to get peaceful and you're going to get joyful, right? But you can see that's not the case, because when you push people away, you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated, you still get agitated. If this was the real problem, when you push that person away or you push the situation away, you would be peaceful and joyful from that point forward for the rest of your life. You would no longer get annoyed or agitated or frustrated. So you can see that this person isn't the problem. This situation isn't what's causing your anger, because when you push that person or you push that situation away, you'd be peaceful if that was the real cause of your problem. So the mind becomes unskillful that it pushes people away or it pushes a situation away. That's called aversion. Or the second thing you'll do when that anger is arising and you don't realize that it's coming from your own cravings is that you might be unskillful through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. You might be bitter and harsh and hostile with the people around you. This is almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, thinking that you're going to fear this person into doing things your way, because the mind wants those cravings fulfilled. You want people to do things your way. So it's kind of like, do things my way, right? And the mind gets really hostile and bitter with the people around you. And in this situation, the people aren't comfortable being around that, and they might have chosen to leave out of your life, right? Or at the very least, you've damaged the relationship. Or the third thing that you might do when this anger is arising and you don't realize that it's coming from your own mind is that you will put expectations on people and you will try to control them and force them to do things your way. And once again, this is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled, because the mind thinks if I can just get things my way, I'll get those pleasant feelings. But the problem with this is that there's 8 billion people in the world. You can't force 8 billion people to do things your way. So when there's craving, desire, attachment, when there's this longing and yearning, wanting things to be a certain way, you can only be happy when you get things your way. And this world is not going to function that way. You're not going to always get what you want. So that means you're going to sometimes end up in the painful feelings where you're angry and frustrated and sad. And now when this anger is arising, you'll be unskillful, pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or putting your expectations on people. And where this is all coming from is this third poison, which is called ignorance or delusion. I tend to not use this word ignorance because it's kind of like a derogatory word. It's degrading. And a Buddha doesn't speak that way. An enlightened being doesn't speak that way. This is people that are translating his words into English that they don't understand that. So the phrase that's better to think of here is the unknowing of true reality, or confusion, or misunderstanding, or misperception, lack of wisdom. The mind in the unenlightened state lacks wisdom. It just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. The unenlightened mind doesn't understand that it's craving that is causing the anger. The mind doesn't understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because in the unenlightened state, you have ego in the mind. The mind thinks I'm right and everybody else is wrong. Everyone else is doing things the wrong way. My way is the right way. And now I'm perfect and everybody else is the problem, right? So the mind is very easy to blame other people for the feelings that you're experiencing. So right now you might be believing that it's other people that are causing you to be angry or frustrated. And that's the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom. So you're going to need to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And I'm going to help you to see that here in a moment. So these are the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires, referred to as craving, anger, and ignorance, or greed, hatred, and delusion. But there's other ways people refer to them as well. So now diving into this craving in more detail so that you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Again, that craving is that unquenchable thirst, the longing, the yearning, seeking satisfaction externally, thinking that if I can just get what I want, everything will be perfect. here's what you do is the mind's craving permanence in this situation, right? The mind's wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. And if you get it, you feel happy, you feel excited, you get pleasant feelings. But if you don't get what you want, you feel painful feelings like anger, sadness, or frustration. So don't believe what I'm sharing with you in this situation. Take a recent situation where you've been angry or you've been frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Think about that situation through these fresh eyes, through this new wisdom. Think about what was going on at the time. There was something that you were wanting. There was something you were expecting. This might have been this morning. This might have been yesterday. It might have been last week. There was something your mind was longing, yearning for. And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were angry or frustrated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. You should be able to look at this yourself and see. I could give you example after example, right? I've had many students over the years that are confused with this, and they'll come and ask me. Like, I'll give this common one that I usually share, is that one time a student said, I went to work yesterday and my house looked beautiful. And when I came home, my wife had this craft project all over the house. And when I walked in, I got frustrated, I got annoyed. How did my mind cause this frustration? Didn't my wife cause it? She's the one who put everything around the house. She's the one who messed up the house. And I was like, nope, it was your own mind that caused this. And they said, how? And I said, well, you were craving permanence. You had a certain expectation. When you went to work, the house looked a certain way, and you expected it to look that exact same way when you came home. And the thing is that the world is impermanent. Everything around you is constantly changing. There's not going to be a situation where your house looks permanently one certain way. So if you have the expectation that your house is going to look a certain way permanently, when you came home and you saw it didn't look that way, then you were frustrated, you were agitated or annoyed, because your mind doesn't understand impermanence, that everything around you is constantly changing. The world is impermanent. And as long as you're craving permanence, then you will be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. Or you could think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you were with. When you guys first got together, you were probably so happy and excited. But then over time, you guys broke up. And now you were maybe angry or lonely or bored or feeling frustrated or maybe missing this person. It wasn't your love that was causing that. It was your mind holding on and craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent. As long as you guys were together, you had a certain level of satisfaction. But then when you guys broke up, the mind didn't like this because it does not like impermanence. It craves permanence. So with your mind holding on to this person, you were lonely, you were bored, you were missing this person, you were angry, you were frustrated. But at some point, you were like, you know what? If he wants to be with somebody else, so be it. And you let it go. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your mind gained its peacefulness and its joy. But as long as your mind was holding on and wanting this person in your life, you were discontent. You were frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So you can take any number of situations, no matter what it is, all throughout your life. Whenever you've been angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed, it's all coming from your own mind. It's coming from the craving, desire, attachment. Now, I know you've probably been in knockdown, drag out fights with people, arguing with them about how what they are doing is making you angry and they have to stop doing what they're doing. I have a feeling you've probably experienced this, where you've been trying to adamantly convince this person to stop doing what they're doing. That's the expectations that you're putting on this person, trying to control them to do things your way, because the mind is craving permanence. So as long as you have this craving, desire, attachment in the mind, your mind's going to be going up and down and up and down and up and down. There's going to be situations where you're happy and you're excited. Then there's going to be situations where you're angry and frustrated and sad. And you'll have periods in between where, the mind's somewhat peaceful, but it's only a matter of time before one of your cravings, desires, attachments gets triggered and you get happy and excited when you get what you want, and you get angry or sad or frustrated when you're not getting what you want. You can even go back to when you were a child. You can see this when we asked mom and dad for ice cream and chocolate. If they gave it to us, we were so happy. We were so excited. But if they said, no, you can't have chocolate and ice cream, we were so angry. We thought they were the ones making us angry when it was your own mind. You are longing, yearning for things. So this craving, desire, attachment, it's inside the mind. It's not the object itself. It's not the computer. It's not the car. It's not the boyfriend or girlfriend or the money. It's the way that the mind is longing, yearning for it, craving it, desiring it, wanting and expecting it. So as long as the mind's doing this, you're going to experience these discontent feelings. But there is a solution for this. The Buddha figured out how to solve this so that you can get to the peace and joy, where you're not chasing, but you're also not all the way over here on the other side, where you're dull and lethargic and just complacent and lazy. There's a middle way that the Buddha taught. I shared the entire path yesterday. It's called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha that is going to teach you how to eliminate craving, desire, attachment through training of the mind. And for those of you guys that were here yesterday, you learned that. If not, it's been recorded. I've taught this teaching many times because it's the core central teaching of the Buddha. And you would need to know the Eightfold Path in order to be able to actively train the mind on a day-to-day basis to eliminate these causing condition that's producing the discontent feelings. But there's two things on the path that are really targeting craving, desire, attachment. Again, you would need to know the entire path in order to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. But it's breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity that's really targeting the craving, desire, attachment. So that meditation that we just did this morning, the breathing mindfulness meditation, where you are focused on the breath, and whenever the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. This is training your mind to let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment, the mind doesn't want to let go. It's holding on. It's craving. It's desiring for things to be a certain way. So if during this meditation, when you were focused on the breath, if your mind kept moving off the breath and you kept having to let go, let go, let go, this is really good for you. If 10, 15, 20, 30 times during your meditation, you had to keep letting go, this is training your mind to let go, because that's the whole problem, that the mind doesn't want to let go. It's holding on to that boyfriend or girlfriend. It's holding on to grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and wanting them to be a certain way, right? So when you can let go, that's what's going to allow your mind to get to the peace and the joy. So by regularly training the mind with breathing mindfulness meditation, by focusing on the breath, you will ultimately, over time, multiple years, train the mind to be able to let go. And it doesn't grab on and hold on to things very tightly. So this is a consistent, ongoing training that an individual would implement into their life. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the case, but as long as you're alive, you're going to have thoughts. The goal in meditation is to cut off and let go, so you train your mind to have that ability to be able to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. So that now in day-to-day life, when you're out and you're noticing some anger arising, you can cut that off and let it go. But if you haven't been training your mind with meditation, you won't see the anger arising and you won't be able to let it go, because you'll go from 0 to 100 really quick. Instantly, your mind will be, just calm one moment, and the next thing you know, you'll be completely angry and frustrated. But if you've been training your mind with this breathing mindfulness meditation, you'll be able to notice the anger slowly arising, and you'll be able to cut it off and let it go, because you can discipline and control the mind. And eventually, when you get to the point where your mind's actually enlightened, there won't be any anger arising. It'll be impossible for it to arise, because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing it. So the breathing mindfulness meditation is important for you to learn and consistently practice that. And that's why I teach that in all the various courses and retreats that I share. I taught this yesterday to help you guys to understand it inside and out. But then there's generosity. This is another practice that is going to help your mind to let go. Because when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you'll tend to be selfish. You'll tend to hold on to things very tightly. You won't be interested in giving and sharing with other people. As children, we're typically taught to share, right? We're not taught why, but we're typically taught to share our toys and share our food and things like this. But as we age and we start working and we start applying our own effort and energy to acquire the things that we want in life, we tend to hold on to those things very tightly, being disinterested to share with other people. The mind wants things to be self-satisfying all the time. But when you practice generosity, you can live open-handedly, be joyful in sharing with other people, giving and sharing your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources, more than is strictly required in any given situation, without any expectation of anything in return. If you're going to practice generosity, you need to do it without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you have an expectation of something in return, there's still a craving there. There's still a desire. So what I suggest you do is start implementing generosity into your life. Start sharing with people around you your time, effort, energy, and resources, where things don't have to always be self-satisfying for you. So if you're going into a store, for example, and you're opening the door for yourself, if there's someone behind you, let them in first, right? Just stand there and hold the door. But the challenge is you got to watch your mind, because if you're standing there with an expectation that they're going to say thank you and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated. You'll be agitated or annoyed, right? I know that because that's what I used to do. I used to stand there and hold the door, and if they didn't say thank you, I'd be pissed off, right? But if you let go of that expectation and you realize that, hold on a second, I'm not doing this because I want something. What you need to practice generosity for is for only one reason, because you're trying to enhance the quality of your mind. That's what the generosity is for, is to train your mind to let go. It's not because you want something in return. If you want something in return, it's not generosity, because you're wanting something out of this situation. So you need to be willing to give and share without any expectation of anything in return. And that's what's going to train your mind to let go. So if you notice that you're washing your clothes and one of your clothes comes out and it's ripped and torn and you get angry and frustrated, you're attached to your clothes. You're craving your clothes to be permanent, and now you're frustrated and agitated. I suggest you practice some generosity with your clothes. Start giving and sharing your clothes. Start giving some of those articles away, or share it with other people. Let your brothers and sisters or friends wear your clothes sometimes. If you're noticing that when you misplace your jewelry, that your mind is all shaken up by that because you're craving the permanence of your jewelry, start sharing your jewelry. Let other people wear it or give it away if you can. Or if you're noticing you're holding on to money really, really tightly, and you want this money and you're craving for it and you're longing and yearning for it, you get so joyful when you're watching your bank account rise up higher and higher and higher. You're getting so happy. This is because your mind's holding on to this money, trying to get satisfaction out of it. It's never going to be enough for you because you have this unquenchable thirst that the mind is chasing. So here in Thailand or back in your home country, as you see places where you can donate money, this is helpful for you to train your mind to let go. What you're going to notice with generosity is frequency is more important than the amount. So if you were going to donate, say, $500 once a year to an orphanage, that's not going to have as much impact and as much improvement as if you gave $1 a day. By giving $1 a day, you're having to let go every single day. You're having to let go, let go, let go. So like here in Thailand, if you go to restaurants and stores and stuff, they typically have donation boxes around. And you can put 10 baht, 20 baht, 30 baht in multiple different locations. So over the course of the day, maybe you gave away 100 baht or 200 baht. But maybe 3, 4, 5 times during the day, you've had to let go, let go, let go. Let go. This is really good for your mind. The frequency is more important than the duration or the amount. And it's the same thing with the meditation. The frequency of your meditation is more important than the amount. So if it's a matter of doing one meditation for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, the 2 for 15 in one day is actually more beneficial than the 1 for 30 because you're having to more frequently let go over the course of your day. So these are the 2 practices that are really targeting the craving, desire, attachment. Do you guys have any questions on what this particular poison is or the solutions for it? Remember, if you guys could use the microphones here or online, you could put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. No questions? Okay, I'm going to check online here. Hello to everyone online. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So, all right. So now that you're starting to understand the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, wanting things to be permanent. And when the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy or excited. It gets pleasant feelings. And when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. Now we can talk about the anger, because when that anger is arising, the mind is going to become unskillful. It's uncomfortable with these feelings, so it tries to fix it. But because it doesn't understand what's actually causing it, the way that it tries to fix it doesn't actually work. It'll try to push people away, or it'll try to push the situation away. It's trying to get this person out of your life, and the mind thinks that that's somehow going to solve it. Or the mind will be bitter and harsh and hostile through your intentions and speech and actions, almost trying to fear this other person into doing things your way. Or you might put your expectations on this person, trying to control them, and once again, force them or pressure them into doing things your way. And in this situation, you can't live harmoniously with all beings, because it's only a matter of time before somebody doesn't do things your way. There's only one person in the world who does things your way all the time. Do you know who that person is? Yeah, yourself. That's it. So if you hang out with enough people, it's only a matter of time before somebody does something differently than you. And if you can only be happy spending time with people who do things your way, there's only one person in the world that you can spend time with. And even in that situation, you might find it hard to spend time with yourself, right? So you might be pushing people away, thinking that that's going to solve your problem. But the thing is that the world is impermanent. People are going to do things differently than you. There's only one person in the world that's going to do things your way. So if you're being bitter, harsh, and hostile with people, it's damaging your relationships. And if you're putting expectations on people and trying to control them, they're going to feel pressured, and they're going to choose to potentially leave out of your relationship because they keep feeling like you're pressuring them to do things your way, right? So you can change all of this. First, you got to get rid of your cravings, desires, attachments. That's part of what you're working on with the breathing mindfulness meditation and the generosity. But then also you're going to need to uproot this anger and hatred and ill will and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. Right now, you might have certain people that you like and certain people that you dislike. The people that you like, they're doing things your way, for now at least, right? They're meeting your expectations. They're doing what you want. But these people over here that you dislike, there's some expectation you have of some craving for permanence that they're not meeting. Maybe you want their hair to be a certain way. Maybe you want their voice to be a certain way. You want them to walk a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way. And they're not doing that. And now you might hate them or you might dislike them. This is actually coming from your own mind. Sometimes people think it's coming from somewhere else, from that person. But that person isn't causing your hatred. The hatred is actually inside your own mind. So the way that you transform this anger and hatred is you're going to need to have loving kindness for all beings around you. First, you need to understand that everybody's different. Not everybody's going to be the same. They're not going to be the same as you. But then you need to cultivate this love and this kindness for all beings around you. What loving kindness is where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you have active goodwill towards all beings. This is something that you can train in. If you use loving kindness meditation, you'll be able to train the mind to be loving and kind, where you can have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you can have active goodwill towards all beings. There's a different meditation that I haven't taught here in this particular course and that we didn't do this morning, which is going to essentially rewire your mind to be loving and kind. But you need to first understand that that anger is coming from your own mind based on your cravings, your desires, your attachments. When people are doing certain things, if you disagree with it, your anger might arise, right? And you go down this well-worn path of anger. You know where that leads. It leads to broken relationships because you've been down that path many times, right? It's a well-worn path. The bushes are pushed back. The trees are pushed back. The branches are pushed back. The grass is all worn out. And by the time you get down there, you're going to get to broken relationships if you keep being angry and frustrated and agitated and annoyed over and over and over again. But there's a better way. There's a better way of life, of being loving and kind with all beings. But you need to be able to see that you can love the person while disagreeing with their choices and decisions that they make. Sometimes people think I can only like somebody or I can only love them if they do things my way. But when you separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, then you can love the person, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, but you maybe disagree with their choices and decisions. I've never met anybody who's agreed with their parents 100% of the time, that they agreed with every single thing their parents ever have done. Is there anybody here that has agreed with every single thing their parents have ever done? Nobody? I've never met anybody who's agreed with their parents 100% of the time. So if you can only love people who do things your way, once again, you're only going to ever be able to love one person in the world, because there's only one person in the world that makes decisions your way. Right? And you might even have trouble loving that person, right? Sometimes you might be hateful to yourself because it's only you that's going to make decisions your way. So if you can only love people who do things your way, you're going to have a very challenging time having relationships. This might be why you're having broken relationships over and over and over again, because the loving kindness hasn't been brought to full growth and full perfection and full development in the mind. So this loving kindness meditation essentially rewires the mind in order to be loving and kind. It's like filling up your gas tank, and then you go out into the world and you're loving and kind. And now you'll see more and more love and kindness coming back to you. But if you go out into the world and you're bitter and harsh and hostile with people, thinking that people deserve this, then that's what's going to be coming back to you. You're going to be experiencing bitterness and harshness and hostility coming back to you. Because when I grew up, I had a lot of resentment from my mom growing up for the things that were happening in my childhood. I had certain expectations of her, wanted her to be a certain way. And of course, she couldn't meet those expectations. The problem wasn't mom. The problem was my expectations. I had to get those out of the way. But early on in our relationship, and throughout my early adulthood, I had a lot of resentment and hostility towards her. So I had to train my mind. It was like our relationship had this log jam of resentment and hatred and expectations and frustration. And I needed to pull those logs out so that everything could flow. And it's loving kindness meditation that's going to help you to do that, where you can be loving and kind to the people around you, where I could disagree with the choices and decisions that mom was making while still loving her as a person, having a genuine interest in seeing her be well. This is called unconditional love, where your love doesn't have any conditions. Right now, if you're falling in love with people and you're falling out of love with people, this isn't actually love. This is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. When you meet somebody, you might be attracted to them physically or intellectually, or you might be attracted to their finances or their social position in society. And now when they're meeting your expectations, you might say, I love you, or I have fallen in love with you. But then over time, as you're experiencing life with them, for one reason or another, they stop meeting your expectations. They stop doing things your way. And now you're frustrated or agitated. Maybe your expectations grow and you want more and more things from this person. And now you get angry and frustrated. And now you might say, I've fallen out of love with you. I don't love you anymore. We need to break up. People might have done this with you, right? Where they said that they fall in love with you and then they say they've fallen out of love with you. Really what's happened is at the beginning of the relationship, they were meeting your expectations and you felt pleasant feelings. You felt so happy because they were doing things your way. But later in life, they weren't meeting your expectations anymore. And now you got angry and frustrated that they weren't doing things your way. So you weren't falling in love and out of love with people. We might call this conditional love, even though there's no such thing as love, conditional love. What it is if this person is meeting this condition, this condition, this condition, this condition, this condition, then we will say, I love you. But when you stop meeting my conditions, I don't love you anymore. This is actually selfishness. This is the mind wanting things my way. And if you do things my way, I will say I love you. I will act as if I love you. I will function as if I love you. But if you stop doing things my way, all bets are off. I'm going to be bitter and harsh and hostile to you now. Right? This is why you have very bitter divorces oftentimes with people. But what true love is, and what you like to get to with this loving kindness meditation, is where you love people unconditionally. They don't have to do anything to earn your love, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You're not responsible for their wellness. You're not required to make sure they're well. That's their responsibility. But in your mind, you can cultivate a genuine interest in seeing them be well. That's what the loving kindness meditation is going to do for you. It's called unconditional love, where they don't have to meet any condition for you to love them. So for example, every single one of you, some of you I've never met you before, I love you. I love you, meaning I would like to see you be well. I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. That's why I'm willing to sit here and share these teachings and help you understand how to get to this enlightened mental state. Because I love you, because I would like to see you be well. You didn't earn my love, and there's nothing you can do for me to stop loving you. You could go out and murder someone today, which I don't recommend, but you could call me and say, hey, David, I've made a terrible decision. I need your help. Can you come down here to the jail and talk with me? Sure, I'll come right on down, right? And now you share with me what's happened and I will help you, right? I'll do whatever I can to be able to help you because I love you. I would like to see you be well. And it's not contingent on you doing anything specific. There's no expectations that I have. So that love is unconditional. It's a permanent mental state that you can experience as you train your mind with this loving kindness meditation. So it's like filling up your gas tank. But then you need to go out into the world in order to practice through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, being loving and kind. That's where the real transformation is occurring. The meditation is kind of prepping your mind to have loving kindness, but then you need to go out into the world and practice it through your intentions, speech, and actions. Because if you go outside and you're bitter and harsh and hostile with people, that's not loving kindness. That's your craving and your anger coming up into the situation. So you're going to need to learn this loving kindness meditation, rewire the mind, and now go out into the world and be loving and kind with the people around you. And that's what's going to transform your relationships. Because by you putting out love and kindness to others, this is what will come back to you. And that's how I transformed my relationship with my mom. Early on, whenever me and mom got together, it was like fireworks. Right? Like it was only a matter of time when me and mom got together that there was fireworks going off. Mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room, and I'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and I'd throw it around the room. Next thing you know, we got all these rubber balls bouncing around in the room. Right? Well, I started doing something different. When I was training my mind with loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness, I have a genuine interest in seeing mom be well. So when mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room, I just watch it roll to the corner and lose its energy. I didn't pick it up. So in the past, when we'd be talking on the phone and mom would start being bitter and harsh and hostile, I'd be bitter, harsh, and hostile right back. And that was the fireworks. But now when you start training your mind, mom started being bitter and harsh and hostile on the phone. I would say, you know, mom, I love you so much. I know I've been bitter and harsh with you in the past, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'd like to do things differently. I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what you just said, and we'll talk another time, Mom. I love you. Bye-bye. Right? And whoa, she's like dumbfounded. Like before, he used to, throw this ball back at me, but now he's not throwing the ball back at me. And sometimes I would go 3 months or 6 months without talking to Mom. And then we'd start talking again and she'd be better. Maybe 2 or 3 months, she'd be nice and kind and polite. But it was only a matter of time. She'd be frustrated or agitated, start venting that hostility towards me. And I'd say, Mom, I'm not going to do this anymore. I love you so much. I apologize that I did this in the past, but I'm going to start being loving and kind with you. I'm going to get off the phone. I'll talk to you another time, Mom. Bye-bye. Right? I get off the phone. And then eventually we got to a point where Mom was no longer bitter and angry and hostile towards me because I wasn't doing that to her. She could start realizing that it was her mind that was angry. It wasn't my mind that was angry anymore. It was her mind. So we got to the point by the time she died, there was nothing but harmonious relationship between us. So you can do this in your relationships. There's certain relationships you have right now that you might be challenged in, where there's bitterness and harshness and hostility. And maybe you're not committed to the relationship and there's just too many problems, and it's better to just let that relationship go and move on. And that's how you're going to clean up this part of your life. But then there's other relationships, the second category, where people that you have bitterness and harshness and hostility with, that you're committed to the relationship. Maybe your parents or your brothers and sisters or your life partner or somebody like this. And maybe what you do is you kind of step away, you work on your own mind, you train your own mind, and now you can come back into the relationship and you can be better in that relationship. And by you being loving and kind, you'll see that the other person will slowly transform as well. But then there's a third category of relationships. As you're journeying on this path to enlightenment, these are brand new people that you haven't even met yet. You don't even know their names. And you're only ever going to be loving and kind with those people. And that's all that's ever going to come back to you in those relationships. So this is how you clean up your relationships. There's certain relationships you need to let go of. There's certain relationships you need to improve your own mind and do better in those relationships, the ones that you're committed to. And then there's this third category of brand new people that you'll only ever be loving and kind with them. And now that's what you'll experience in the relationships. So this is how you get rid of this anger, is using loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life. And it's the eightfold path that's going to teach you how to practice that through your speech, your actions, and your livelihood. For those of you guys that were here yesterday, you learned about that. And for those of you guys that would like to learn about it, there's an opportunity for you to do that through our books, through our videos, our podcasts, our classes, courses, and retreats, and all those things. So do you guys have any questions on this anger, this hatred, this ill will, all those lesser versions? Yes, Julie.
I have siblings that love to take a snipe at me quite often, and I think it's just a family trait. Do you have a discussion with those people around the hurtful words, or do you just train yourself to let it go?
Train your own mind. Because fixing them isn't going to solve your problem. Because let's just say you fix your brothers and sisters, even though you can't, but let's just say you did. There's just another person waiting right around the corner that's going to say the exact same things. So if you've got that root in your mind of the craving of wanting people to be a certain way, and then that gets triggered by somebody else, now the anger is going to arise. So you won't solve your problem by trying to fix other people. So all you need to do is work on your own mind. So I never went to my mom and said, hey, Mom, I need you to stop doing this and start doing this. I didn't do that. I just, made the decision for myself to train my own mind. And then when I was interacting with Mom, I did things differently than I would do in the past. So that's what you would like to do, is just train your mind to do things differently. And now you start functioning differently, and they're going to start realizing they're the ones that are angry, because every time they get bitter and harsh or argumentative, or they start trying to snipe at you, you just walk away. And they start realizing, if we'd like to talk to our sister, we better start being more polite and more kind, because they're going to be interested to talk to you. But it's harder in those types of relationships because you're attached and you want them to be a certain way. Where if somebody you didn't know out on the street said those same things to you, you'd be fine. It'd roll right off your shoulder. But because you're attached to these family members, that's where it's impactful. So they're not actually hurting you with their words. It's your own craving inside your own mind that's hurting you. And that's why you need to be able to heal from what hurt you. But what's hurting you is inside your own mind. And healing from what hurt you gets you to the point where you never need to hurt ever again. So even when you're enlightened, there's going to be probably 99.9% of the people are going to interact with you and be polite, kind, friendly, warm, gentle, respectful. But there's going to still be the occasional person that's going to be disrespectful and unkind and this kind of thing, but you'll be completely unaffected by it. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So is you gave the example of when you were speaking to your mum and she was being mean, and then you told her that you loved her, and then you were on the phone, but you walked away. So is that the key? So if you're speaking to somebody and they start being abusive to you, and then you tell them that you care about them and you love them, is the best thing to do in that situation walking away, if you're able to? And are there situations when that person is being mean to you, you tell them, you practice loving kindness to them, are there situations where you might want to stick around?
So it's always wise to walk away from someone else's anger and bitterness and hostility, because as long as there's contact, their mind's going to continue to get angry, in your mind in the unenlightened state can potentially have the same experience. So by breaking contact and stepping away, you're no longer taking in contact through your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, the body, or the mind itself. So the only reason why you wouldn't be able to step away is, if your mind's craving and clinging, if you're holding on, or let's just say physically, like you're in a car with somebody and you're driving, 60 miles down the road, you wouldn't be able to step away because you're in the car. But mentally, you can turn away from the conversation in that situation. So it's always wise to step away from anger and hostility, because as you learned yesterday, it's not the proper time to talk, right? So you would like to just step away from it. There was something else in there. Was there anything else that you had in there? Yeah. You're always interested in stepping away. Oh, that's the thing, is you don't have to always say like, hey, I love you, and then step away. In some situations, you just step away. You don't say anything at all, because especially if you're noticing the anger rising up in your own mind, as you get more and more trained, your mind will be stable and steady, and you'll just step away. But you don't have to say, I love you. I used to do that to my mom because I was helping her to be able to see, hey, I'm sorry. I know I did this in the past, but I'm not doing this any longer. And I love you, Mom. And I would do it very warm and very gentle, because if you're putting out loving kindness, that's what's going to come back to you. And if I'm saying, Mom, I love you, I'm not going to do this anymore, you're not practicing loving kindness in there. So it's just going to keep it going. So you need to be loving and kind if you're going to speak. So if you're noticing the anger in your mind, it's not the proper time to speak. So don't feel like you have to say, I love you, and then walk away. You can just walk away. And sometimes when you do that, they get more angry, right? Because they're craving for you to be permanent. They want to have this fight. And that's all the more reason to walk away, because their mind's so attached and they're craving so much, they're not going to be able to let it go while you're sitting there. And sometimes people are attached to the other person. You don't want to see your mom be angry. You don't want to see your life partner be angry. So you think that you can fix them. And you're like, Mom, just calm down, calm down. I'm calm. What are you talking about? Mom, just calm down. You're upset. No, I'm not upset. You're the one that's causing it, right? It's just going on. So it's just better to leave, right? So that they can see that they're causing their own anger. Because when you walk away and they're still angry, they can see that it's not you causing it. So as you walk away, they might actually get more angry, and they might try to bring you back into the conversation. They might even say, see, you don't love me. You're walking away from me. If you loved me, you would stay here and talk to me. And you need to know, no, I love you. I care for you. And I care for you so much that I'm willing to walk away from this conversation and have it another time when your mind's calm. If I was to stay here, that means I'm attached to you and I'm not willing to let go. So you need to be making sure that you observe your mind, that you're going to have an attachment to that person potentially, or they're going to be attached to you and try to pull you back in to the conversation. And you just got to know what's wise and just keep on walking away. And you do this 2, 3, 4, 5 times with somebody, their mind will eventually let go and they'll start getting more and more peaceful. And you might notice they do the same things with you. If you start getting angry, they might actually start walking away from you. And this is how you basically let all the air out. You let all the anger out. You put the fire out. That's why we call it the 3 fires. You're extinguishing the fire. But if you just sit there and just talk with them and argue with them, it's like tossing dry grass onto the fire, and you're just making the fire stronger. So that's why when you step away, it's extinguishing the fire. So someone else had a question?
Is it working? Yes,
Yep.
It's working. I'm Marta, and I think partially you answered my questions. It was related to your question, but I'm just wondering, how do you deal with kids when they have anger? Because if you walk away, do you walk away or you don't, because they're children, right? And they don't really understand fully yet everything. So
It's the same thing. Just walk away, right? That's the best way to solve it. I'll tell you a story. One time when I was a kid, I threw a temper tantrum in the store. I only ever did this one time. My mom fixed it right from the beginning. We were in the store. I wanted some candy or toy or something, and she wouldn't give it to me. And I got down on the ground. I started wailing and crying and throwing a temper tantrum. I was doing that whole thing for whatever amount of time I was doing it for. And then I was done, and I opened my eyes. I looked around, and Mom was gone. I had no idea where she was at. And I went through the store like, where's Mom? Where's Mom? I was like looking, I was so worried and scared. And I never did that ever again, because she just completely walked away from me and just let me sit there and cry in the store. Where oftentimes what we do as parents is we try to fix the person. And you can't fix them, because what's causing their anger is inside their own mind, their own craving. So even with a child, you can show them good, healthy relationships that when they're angry, when they're hostile, when they're bitter, you walk away. And then more and more, they learn that, hey, if I'm going to talk to Mom and I'm interested in having a conversation with her, I'm going to need to be calm. And now they learn that, and then you'll start seeing more and more improved behavior. Okay. So now that you guys are starting to understand craving and anger, that craving, the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy. It doesn't get what it wants, it gets anger and sadness and frustration and other things. Where all of this is coming from is the ignorance, the unknowing of true reality. All that unskillfulness that the mind has, the bitterness, the harshness, the hostility, that's all coming from this lack of wisdom, or this unknowing of true reality, the misunderstanding, the confusion that the mind has. The mind firmly believes in the unenlightened state that it's other people who are causing you to be angry and frustrated. You have sat here and listened to me talk. You might have independently verified what I just shared. But in another couple of hours, you might completely even forget that and think that it's other people who are causing you to be angry and frustrated. You need to be able to see very clearly and develop the wisdom that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because if you go around continuing to believe that other people are causing them, you'll never get rid of them. So you need to be able to soak that into the mind very deeply and be able to know it with 100% certainty. Cultivate the wisdom that your mind is causing these feelings. So the mind needs to cultivate this wisdom of the teachings of the Buddha, such things like the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Five Precepts, the Brahma Viharas, the Natural Law of Karma, the Seven Factors of Enlightenment, extensive meditation training. It needs to learn how to eliminate the 10 fetters. If the mind lacks this wisdom of these teachings and what they are and how to improve the mind, it will continue to stay stuck with its craving and its anger. It's going to continue to experience this over and over and over again. So that's why you're not believing any of the teachings of the Buddha, because belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. The way you eradicate craving and anger is you need to cultivate wisdom. Wisdom is something that you've independently verified and you know it to be true with 100% certainty. So that's why I teach students, don't believe what I have to share. You need to be able to independently verify what I'm sharing with you is true. So if you've done that work and you're continuing to do that work, you'll be able to see more and more clearly that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, and then you can actually solve it. So that's why on the teachings of the Buddha, you're learning, examining, and investigating his teachings. You're reflecting on them to independently verify them, and then you're practicing them, integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to be able to transform your mind. So getting to wisdom is what's going to antidote this ignorance. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues to exist. If it wasn't for the lack of wisdom, you would have already eliminated your craving and anger. So you can cultivate this wisdom and actually completely transform the mind. So just as a little summary before we wrap up here, is that these three poisons or three unwholesome roots or three fires is called craving, anger, and ignorance, also referred to as greed, hatred, and delusion, or desire, ill will, and confusion. These are called the three unwholesome roots or the three fires or the three poisons. And every time you're experiencing unwholesome results, it's coming from decisions that you're making through this craving, anger, and ignorance. But then when you're transforming the mind, the qualities that are wholesome, that'll completely antidote this, are generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. This is the exact opposite. Because with craving, you're going to hold on to things really tight. Generosity, you're living open-handedly, sharing with other people, being joyful to do so. With the anger, hatred, and ill will, the bitterness, the hostility, the opposite of that is loving kindness, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Because when you're being harsh and bitter and hostile with someone, that's not loving kindness. That's the ill will coming out towards that person, trying to damage that person in some way or fear them into being a certain way. Then when you have this ignorance or this confusion, the opposite of that is the wisdom, cultivation of wisdom of what's truly happening in the world, what's truly happening within your own mind. You can see true reality through the independent verification of what the teachings of the Buddha are sharing with you. So the more that you bring down your craving, anger, and ignorance, and the more you increase your generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, you're going to see your minds becoming more peaceful, more joyful. Your relationships are becoming more harmonious. You're having more success in your professional life as well, because these teachings are going to help you there as well. So you can have a complete transformation of the mind by eliminating and eradicating these unwholesome roots and practicing the wholesome roots. That's what's going to transform your mind. So do you guys have any questions that you guys would like to ask? No? Okay. So now it's basically about 10:40. I'm going to take a 20-minute break here, give you guys a chance to stretch your legs, use the restroom, get a snack, whatever you would like to do. Then I'm going to start teaching the 5 precepts at 11 o'clock. I understand some of you guys might not be coming back, and that's completely fine. Do whatever you would like to do, but you're welcome to come back and learn some more if you'd like. And if I see you after class or after break, wonderful. And if I don't, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.